Hi everyone, welcome to the poetry module. Your learning objective for this module is analyze the role of poetry, including nonsense, lyric, and narrative forms. So you're going to be looking at different types of poetry, and you also want to remember that this class is an education class. So even if you're not studying to become a teacher, this is kind of tailored towards people who want to become teachers. So I want you thinking about how you would teach poetry to children, whether this is your own children, your neighbor's kids, whether you're doing it through a YMCA or a public school. So in this module, there's a PowerPoint, and I want you to watch that for sure to give you a background on the different characteristics of each type of poem that we're going to be talking about. You're going to do Making Connections to Poetry Discussion Forum. And on that one, it says, this week you will find a poem or write a poem that directly reflects you and your personality. So you're going to recite or perform that for us on video. And then you're going to post it to the discussion forum. I think this is a really fun and interactive way for us to get to know each other a little bit better. And also, if you were a K-12 teacher, this is a great way to get students more interested in poetry. When you can relate anything to the student, it's going to help. So I went ahead and I provided an example for you of a poem that I think is very reflective of how I view myself. So I would encourage you to read that and try to figure out for yourself, what does that say about me and the kind of person that I am? The poem is called Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. All right, so moving on, during this module, you will answer a discussion question. Is music poetry? So on there, you're going to watch a TED Talk, and don't worry, it's not too long, but it is very interesting. And it talks about how some rappers, like Eminem, for example, he is known for his lyrical poetry and for his command of rhyme and even the pacing of language and phrasing and vocabulary. So it will talk about some musicians and some music. And is that actually poetry? And I'm asking you the same thing. Is music poetry? Why or why not? You don't have to agree with the TED Talk. And I want you to provide your own example of one song of your choice that includes poetry elements, rhythm, rhyme, repetition, meter. I want you to post a link to that video in the discussion board and tell us why you think this song is considered poetry. Why is it solid poetry? Why is it good? Um, and when I taught middle school, I used to tell my students when I introduced poetry, they'd go, "Oh, poetry, we don't like that." And I would say, "What are you talking about? You're constantly listening to your iPods. You're constantly singing and dancing around. Music is poetry." So my personal belief is that every song begins with a poem. So that should be something else that's going to be fun for you guys. That is our last, or our last assignment is a poetry toolbox. And so here, you're actually creating, not really a toolbox, I call it a toolbox, but a collection of poetry in a PowerPoint, Prezi, any type of electronic format. You have to include, the goal is 10 different types of poems with the definition. So an acrostic, and what's the definition? Um, cinquain, and what's the definition? 10 of those. Then 2 poetry books. So you're going to have to go to a bookstore or look online. 2 poetry books that can be used in the classroom when you're teaching each type of poem. So if you're teaching acrostics, then you now have to identify 2 books that includes acrostics in it and then list those. If you're teaching them to write narrative poems, then you have to find 2 books that actually has narrative poems you could use to teach narrative poetry. And then finally, 2 strategies for each type of poem that can be used by a teacher when teaching that type of poem. So something simple, like if you're doing an acrostic, the teacher could go to the board and write their own name, Rachel, Rachel, R stands for, I don't know, radiant. A stands for whatever. So a teacher could have the students do that same thing, write your name, and using each letter in your name, write characteristics that describe you. So I'm looking for two different strategies that teachers could use. Now, you're welcome to use the internet as a reference, but you are not welcome to cut and paste and just copy. That's plagiarism. I want these things to be creative and original ideas that come from here, not from AI. And I do use AI. I like it very much. There's quite a few different AI programs that help us with lesson planning, and it helps teachers to actually spot AI. So I know that you could go online and have somebody create it for you, but I don't want you to do that. That defeats the purpose. I really want this to push you to be more creative and to push you to think of your own ideas. So that is our last module for this class. The next module is just wrapping it up and doing the end of class survey. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this module as much as I do. Have a good day.